Good afternoon. On behalf of the Cleveland Metropolitan Schools and the department that I work in, the first thing I want to do is thank you. Thank you for agreeing to be mentors and volunteers to help our 2,632 eighth graders make a high school choice. It's an important transition in our eighth graders' lives when they begin to think about what their next step's going to be. And it takes a lot of people to make that happen. One of the things that we do not do at the Cleveland Metropolitan Schools is assign eighth graders a high school. All eighth graders have to make a choice. And so it's very important that we get all the help we can get to help those families make that choice. So again, thank you for taking the time today and throughout this process to help those kids and their families find that right next step in finding out where their next educational journey goes. What I'm going to do for you in the next 40 or so minutes is try to cover 4 different pieces of information. First, what I want to do is give you a brief history of school choice in Cleveland. So we're going to go through a real quick history lesson of the last 40 years of education in Cleveland. Is that out of an excitement, maybe? But what that will do, that brief history lesson, will kind of set the stage for why choice is important in Cleveland and why we embrace it as a strategy for our schools. We're going to talk about how we support our families making a choice and how you can help us in that support to make that choice happen. And then I'm going to give you a preview of the school choice process that we use here in Cleveland. So those are the 4 objectives for the day. And so this is that brief history of the last 40 years of education in Cleveland. And I'm going to highlight a couple of different milestones throughout this process. If we look at history for the district starting in 1976, you notice there are about 80,000 students enrolled in Cleveland Metropolitan Schools. But in 1976, the Federal Desegregation Act, or ruling, was made that started the change in how our enrollment was done, and really was the first time we saw, or did not see, or did not notice that families were beginning to make choices about where they lived and where they educated their students. Concurrent to that, in the late 90s, between the 76 and the 90s, then we had a court case that said the state of Ohio needed to take over the Cleveland Metropolitan Schools. There was the suspicion of mismanagement and other kinds of things going on when the state of Ohio stepped in and they started to begin to manage the Cleveland Metropolitan Schools. That was really a time of instability and declining enrollment within the schools. If you look at that graph, during that period of 20 years, there were 12 different superintendents. So 12 different superintendents, 12 different educational leaders were trying to lead this district. And at that same time, you see the enrollment steadily decreasing because people did not feel that the education system was right for their children. During the late 90s into the early 2000s, a couple other things happened. That through some negotiations and through some changes, the mayor of Cleveland took control of the schools. So the mayor is in charge of schools in Cleveland, and we still have a board of education. That was later reaffirmed by the voters of Cleveland, but the mayor actually has the authority over the school district. But also during that time, charter schools and vouchers became an option for parents. Cleveland and Milwaukee were the first 2 cities in the country that were given the voucher program through the federal government that allows our parents to receive a voucher to attend local parochial schools. And the charter school movement became more widely available to children in Ohio, in particular in Cleveland. So during that time, we lost another about 16 to 17, 18,000 kids left the district. Families were making choices about where their children were going to go to school. It wasn't until the 2000s, 2010, etc., when the state again decided that maybe it was time for us to be taken over again, that the community, the business community, the philanthropic community, community activists, and our elected officials said, we want to avoid school takeover, and we want to come up with a plan ourselves that transforms the way we deliver public school education in Cleveland. And through a partnership with our Cleveland delegation and the state of Ohio and the governor at the time, they actually passed a series of legislation that allowed Cleveland to take control of the schools and come up with what's called the Cleveland Plan. The Cleveland Plan is a piece of state legislation that allows us to operate a little differently than most districts in the state of Ohio. And today we're the only district in Ohio that has this kind of legislative capacity to do the things we do. If you look at the news now, there are a couple other districts in our area that are in trouble with the state and are on the verge of being taken over. They've not opted to do this route. Cleveland is unique in that we decided that it was in our best interest to come together as a community to do this. But you also start to notice from an enrollment standpoint, we started to level out. We've actually begun to have enrollment grow. People are beginning to feel a sense of confidence in the schools. We passed a school levy. Kids are coming back. People see us as an option, which is a good thing because stability is here. Our current CEO, Eric Gordon, has been here for a number of years. He helped write this Cleveland plan, so there's stability and growth in the district. To make all this happen, I mentioned the Cleveland plan. I'll quickly go over the Cleveland plan because that's our cornerstone. That's our blueprint for how we do business as a school district. And there are 4 components or 4 pillars to that plan. The first is, it is our intent to grow or increase the number of high-performing district and charter schools in Cleveland. We want to make sure that there are a growing number of high-quality, good seats in our public schools, but also in our charter schools. We know that, again, families make choice. The data showed that. We want to give options, and good options, either at a community school or charter school or at the district. To do this, we needed to, again, change the way we did business. Our offices at 1111 downtown and our East Professional Development Center are support centers for our teachers and our principals. We believe that schools do the education and that our 1111 staff and our administrative staff are there to support the principals and their leaders making decisions about what occurs in their buildings. That we have guidelines and all those kind of things that look at equity and access, etc., but principals and their teams really know what's best for their building. They can hire the teachers that they want to hire. They can bring in the programs and services that they want based on good practice. We as a district and a community are going to invest in high-performing, high-leverage district opportunities from preschool to college and beyond. That it's important that we look across the spectrum, have increasing number of seats in quality pre-K, making sure that our programs for transition to college are good quality. That we're going to look at bringing in new models, that what other cities have gone through in urban education reform can be looked at and brought to Cleveland. So we look at, again, investing and leveraging. And finally, we created a new nonprofit in Cleveland called the Cleveland Transformation Alliance, which is an independent nonprofit whose responsibility is to kind of monitor the quality of education in Cleveland, to work with our charter school partners and present additional options for our parents. Today, we're going to talk about the choice process as it relates to CMSD schools. The Transformation Alliance works to help inform others about all the other options, the quality charter school options that are available to our parents as well. Today we're going to talk about CMSD schools, but the Transformation Alliance is charged with helping to make sure that quality education is an option throughout the rest of the city. To do all this work, to do those 4 pillars, we use what's called a portfolio strategy. And if you think about what a portfolio is, an artist has a portfolio of their work. Financial planners have a portfolio of investments. It's a collection. It's a collection of strategies that we believe will help us get to achieving those 4 pillars. We're going to talk very quickly about 5 of those, but focus on 2 that relate to school choice. The first is, I mentioned that school autonomy. The schools that you're working in, those principals and their leaders are the real true leaders of the building. Again, they decide who's hired in their building, what programs and services go on. We do not at a central office tell them who they need to hire, what programs they need to initiate in their building. The money for schools follows the pupil, so that again, money goes to the schools based on the allocation of how many kids are in their seats. And so their job is to keep kids in their seats and to make sure that the money continues to follow them. We want to look at new ways of attracting, retaining, and continuing to grow our teaching staff. So we look at different strategies for bringing on board new teachers. We also look at ways of bringing on new principals and training and retaining those principals. So different strategies for bringing our professionals into the system. We need to increase the sources of support for our children in their classrooms. We use what's called a wraparound strategy, that we know that good education to succeed needs to have all the kinds of support to make sure our families are secure and that our children feel safe and welcome in our buildings. So we work with the United Way and a number of different agencies to provide mental health services and other kinds of services within our building to make sure that works. Earlier today I was at a meeting at Tri-C with a group of other community agencies talking about the displacement of individuals from Puerto Rico who are coming to Cleveland. As of yesterday, about 126 new kids from Puerto Rico have enrolled in public schools here in Cleveland. And what we needed to do as a community is a wraparound services for them. Because you think about it, those kids were coming to Cleveland from Puerto Rico with very little material items. No shoes, no coats, not all the clothes they needed, their educational records, the post-traumatic stress and all the other kinds of things that those kids and families were going through. We needed to have wraparound services to make sure that those were there and accessible to those families. So going out and finding that support. The last piece I'll talk about is performance-based accountability. We want to continue to grow confidence in the schools and what we do, and so we've set up accountability systems. In addition to the state report cards, the district has set its own metrics and goals for what we believe is important for us to reach, and we share those with you. When you go to the district's homepage, clevelandmetroschools.org, you will see our state report card. And you will see all parts of the state report card, the good and the bad. Very happy that our K-3 literacy scores have increased, graduation increases. We're not doing as well in some areas. We make sure that those data and that point is out there so people have transparency when they think about the schools. But the two components I'm going to talk about, again, recognizing choice as a key strategy for us, is extensive public engagement and good options for families. Extensive public engagement means we need to go out and work with families, work with community, work with individuals like you, so that they understand the strategies of the Cleveland schools. That again, we are a choice district. You can attend any school in the district that you wish. You are not obligated or mandated to attend the neighborhood school. But we have to do a good job of informing parents how to do that and what your options are. Again, along with that, we have to grow the number of options. So to do that, we've set up my office, the Office of School Choice and Enrollment, that again works with parents to make sure that they understand they are free to attend their neighborhood school or the best fit. Best fit does not mean the right school, it means the best fit for your child at that time. Most of our K-8 families attend their neighborhood school. Most of our high school kids do not necessarily attend their neighborhood school because, as you see, there's lots of options. And parents exercise their options quite a bit when they choose their school for high school. It's our job to raise awareness, to make sure that people know that there are 30-plus different high schools in Cleveland, and those options are varied. We have very innovative schools. We have lots of different career tech programs that many people are not aware of. The day of the traditional comprehensive neighborhood high school is a thing of the past throughout Cleveland. We only have a couple comprehensive high schools left. Most of our schools have a specialty area or have an area of concentration. And so again, we need to make sure people are aware of that. And the last bullet that I'll focus on is the transition points. There are 3 transition points that we really look at in the school system in Cleveland. Pre-K, making sure that families understand that it's important to enroll your child in a quality pre-K setting. That when they finish pre-K, that we get them to transition to a good quality kindergarten. That for those kids who start their school career in kindergarten, we make sure that they transition from kindergarten to a first grade that's high quality. But for you today, that third transition is transitioning from 8th grade to high school. Those are our key transition points. To wrap it up, the Cleveland Plan is our portfolio strategy, and at the district we look at 6 words that kind of capsulize that. The first being families choose, the second being that schools educate, and the third the district supports. Those kind of things really those 6 words, if you're asked about the Cleveland Plan, that's what the Cleveland Plan is. You're going to help our families choose. They're going to go back to a school where the principal and their leadership team has the ability to make decisions, and we are going to support them throughout that process. So let's take a look at the different schools that we offer, the types of schools. One of the things I think we are blessed with in Cleveland is the diversity of schools we offer. There is a school for every family and every child to consider. Yesterday, one of the questions I got was about our competition. You know, who is our competition for our kids? And most times people would say it's our private schools, our great private schools we have locally, our great parochial high schools. I sometimes say our biggest competition is our own schools, because we have so many options for parents that sometimes it gets overwhelming. When I think about, if my child is interested in science and health careers as a potential, I have 5 or 6 schools I could choose from to meet my needs to be to be in the science and health area. So sometimes our own competition is internal. So the types of schools we have: career technical education programs. And we'll talk a little bit more about career tech. Career tech programs help prepare kids for careers in college. Embedded programs that really focus on the most needed pathways and careers that we need for Northeast Ohio and beyond. We have early college programs for those kids who are really focused on going to college and want to start that college experience early. We have a variety of early college programs. We have programs where a child can graduate from high school with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. When they walk across the stage, they have 2 graduation ceremonies: an associate's degree from Bard College and a degree from Cleveland Metropolitan Schools, all free of charge. We have an international baccalaureate high school now. New this year, Campus International. It's a partnership with Cleveland State University. It's a companion school to our Campus International K-8 program. The most popular school we have in Cleveland is our Campus International Baccalaureate program school. So a new program there. In most cities, that's a highly selective school. In Cleveland, that's an open enrollment school. So if you have a family that's interested in international baccalaureate, that's an open enrollment school. We have a number of schools that are under the umbrella of New Tech. Those are New Tech. Those are innovative classrooms and programs that try to integrate technology into the classroom or bring other kinds of innovative curriculum into our program. One of the ones that I would encourage some of our folks to look at is our Facing History New Tech program on the west side. Its curriculum focuses on a national program called Facing History and Ourselves. It's one of those programs that really looks at community involvement of our children, doing problem solving and group work, but it's also one of our safe havens for LGBT kids. So kids who want to look for a welcoming and supportive environment. Our Facing History program is a wonderful place for those kids. We're also one of the few public school districts in the country that offers single-gender schools. We currently have an all-male high school. Gann Academy on the east side is our single-gender high school. But in the K-8 arena, we have 2 all-girls schools and 2 all-boys schools, one on each side of town. So we offer that single-gender program that's similar to what a lot of people find attractive in our parochial schools. We offer that as a public school option. And then we do have the STEM programs: science, technology, engineering, and math. And we embed those. We have some that are more standalone STEM opportunities, but a lot of schools also embed that throughout the curriculum. So we offer a lot of options to parents in terms of considering the high school choice. We're going to talk first about the criteria schools. What is a criteria school? A criteria school is a high school that if a student wants to enroll in that school, they have to meet certain benchmarks or criteria to be considered for enrollment. So they have to look at completing an application that will include things like, what is your GPA? They'll do additional testing. They'll look at their state testing. They'll look at the School of Science and Health, Science and Medicine will give them a specific math and science test, and they have to score at a certain level. For our Cleveland School of the Arts, they will audition. So there's criteria for consideration into these schools. They will have to fill out a separate application and go through this process. We want to make sure that those kids are aware of the options that are there. This, if we were to kind of put it into a bulleted kind of thing, it's the concept of a private school concept in a public school. That we really look at academic rigor and opportunities that a lot of folks look for in some of our private school partners, but these are public schools. Again, looking at the criteria. And as you go through the process, you will get information about what the criteria is for these 7 schools. What I will say to you is that we try to find the right kids for these schools, but many times the right kids don't apply or don't think these schools are for them. That they think sometimes these schools are for other folks. that we have to break that myth down, that these schools are Cleveland public schools and Cleveland residents should be applying for these schools. That they should investigate what these schools have to offer and give them consideration, because sometimes our kids don't think that they can get into these schools, and they surely can get into these schools. Those 7 schools are listed here for us. We're fortunate in Cleveland that we have 2 campuses of Bard Early College. Bard College is a liberal arts school in New York City that, in addition to their campuses on New York City, they go out and have established satellite programs around the country. We're lucky, we're the only city that has 2. So we have an east side and a west side location for Bard. This is the program where, when you graduate, you can get an associate's degree from Bard and a high school diploma at the same time. So it's concurrent education. Your associate degree studies start, I believe, when you're a junior. This is, again, an excellent opportunity for our kids. Cleveland Early College and the Cleveland School of Architecture and Design are 2 of the 3 campuses, 2 of the 3 schools on the John Hay campus. Again, for those kids who are looking at an early college experience, a wonderful opportunity for them. GPA is a little bit higher for those two schools, but again, not unreachable. Adjacent to them is the Cleveland School of the Arts, where again an audition is required. Auditions for CSA actually start this month and will continue throughout the winter. The children who want to go into there will actually do a juried audition. They'll go in and if they're a vocal performance, they'll sing. If they're a dancer, they'll dance. They'll bring in a portfolio of their work. If they're a writer, they'll bring in samples of their writing. And they'll actually have not only the faculty of CSA look at their work and to judge it, but they'll also have musical and other arts professionals help them evaluate, are these kids ready for this? So it's a great opportunity for those kids who really believe that arts-infused education is something they want to explore. The Cleveland School of Science and Medicine is the third school on the John Hay campus. Again, if you saw the Plain Dealer recently, it's the number 92 high school in all of Ohio. So again, a competitive, rigorous high school. That's a public school that we're very proud of. And the final high school that's a criteria high school is on the east side, and that's Whitney Young. And that's the school that generally attracts gifted and talented students. So those who want a truly gifted and talented school experience, Whitney Young is their option. So on one side we have what are called the criteria schools. Then we have a number of career technical programs. Many folks will think that when you think of career technical education in CMSD, they will immediately think of Max Hayes. Max Hayes High School on the west side is a large, brand new newer facility, and it is our traditional vocational or career tech program. But actually, there are 30 different pathway programs in Cleveland at 12 or more different buildings. So when you think about career tech, it's not only at Max Hayes, it's in Jane Addams, it's in the New Tech East, it's in East Tech, Martin Luther King. Lots of programs, 12 different buildings have career technical education programs. And those are programs that are a little bit different than that some people my age may think of the old vocational education program, where it was really kind of a training for a specific job, and it was really much more career-oriented than it is today. What we do now with pathways is we look at the concept of pathways. Pathways are the progression of classes that will lead you to a career understanding and the ability to get credentials upon graduation. Most of our career tech programs give you the opportunity upon graduation to set for and take additional state licensing or national licensing, so that when you pass those courses, you get a head start in career preparation. But it's not just career technical credentials. It leads to high school, and it leads to college. That we have articulation agreements. Articulation agreements mean that when you graduate and you start at a 2 or 4 year institution, you can actually start with college credit for the classes you took at high school. So again, you have that opportunity for a head start. Now the question I had yesterday was, so are these programs only career tech? Do they only take career tech classes? No. They take the core courses, reading, writing, math, social studies, foreign language, etc. The base curriculum is still there. Many of those high school programs embed it into the curriculum or teach it in a contextualized way, but they're still there. So again, highly rigorous programs, 30 different programs you can choose from. Here's a list of most of them. So when you look across the spectrum, there are some of the traditional career tech options there, but again, there's some additional kinds of opportunities there that again lead to opportunities at post-secondary education throughout our community. And our career tech folks make sure that they help those kids make that transition on to further education and training. So how do we do all this? In addition to folks like yourself, we do have an intentional strategy of how we inform our families to make choices. Because again, as I said, all 8th graders have to make a choice. And let me qualify it when I say make a choice. It's the family, it's the parent or caregiver who makes the choice. Children cannot make their own choices. So a student may set up an account and they'll log in and they'll make their choices. That doesn't count. We have to verify that the parent actually makes the choice, and sometimes those choices aren't the same. But we make sure that the families make the choice. So how do we do that? One of the strategies, we do high school choice fairs. January 23rd through 25th at our East Professional Center, and these are on your handout, so you don't need to write those. The 23rd through 25th at East Professional Center, we will have our high school fair for every